responsibility. The milkman, the paper boy, evening TV. Everywhere you look, there's a heart, a hand to hold on to. Everywhere you look.
I'm Dr. Nick Delgado. This is the Functional Medicine Panel, expanding to the area of wellness, anti-aging, precision medicine, and essentially everything you need to understand how to live a better quality, longer life. Our first panelist is Dr. Jeffrey Benton. He's a author of the Emotional Trauma Release Technique. I'm the beneficiary of some of his work. I'm excited to tell you it really does work, and it's emotional work that who would have connected the emotional body with the physical body? I think we all talk about that. To actually experience it is quite remarkable. Dr. Jeffrey Benton is licensed in chiropractic healer. He spent much of his life studying the human body and received a doctorate in chiropractic in 1996 from the Southern California University of Health Sciences. He's certified traditional naturopath since 2010, and Dr. Benton is qualified medical examiner for the state of California. He received his certification in applied clinical nutrition. Dr. Jeffrey Benton, say hi to the crowd here.
Well, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us, and thank you, Dr. Nick Delgado.
Okay.
And I know, we're talking about cutting edge therapies, how to get my deal is how to get trauma out of your life. Because what aging is just trauma. And trauma causes havoc in all its different ways and forms. So if we have a method, which I developed, to actually remove trauma, then all the other modalities and all the other speakers here at this table, those modalities are going to work better if you have a clear communication channel. That's what I do. I clear out a roto-root, the communication channels in your body, mind, and spirit. And so I am the author of this book, The Emotional Trauma Release Technique, and I'm also a co-author of Wake Up Miracles, Miracles of Healing from Around the World, with such luminaries as Dr. Joe Dispenza and Dr. Patrick Porter, Mary Ellen Hemingway. So look that up on Amazon if you'd like. Both of these books are on Amazon. Or come over here and get a license, get a signature copy from me here at the Biomed Expo.
So our next panelist is the author of Forever Young Together, 10 Anti-Aging Strategies for You and Your Dog. Dr. C. Almond Scott is quite famous amongst the celebrity network. She's interviewed over 1,000 Hollywood icons in health and transformation. Her mission to help humans and dogs age in reverse. Together, we have an exciting panelist, Dr. C. Almond Scott. Can you please just address the audience briefly and tell us what's in store for them?
Well, I've been saying for over 25 years that suffering is optional and life is what you make it. So I think it's important that we get rid of anything that is the wrong idea. And Jeffrey is really very helpful with that. Although I wrote another book that's a bestseller called, oh boy, what is it called at this point? Decide Your Future, Right, Direct, and Star in Your Life. And that does have some really good decision-making processes in it. So sometimes people create their own suffering.
Oh yeah.
And I've been doing a lot of these conferences for the last 3 years, and my specialty is pretty much red light therapy, near infrared frequency healing, and what Albert Einstein says is true, the future of medicine is in frequencies. So I'd love to help you with your dog as well. And always remember, your dog is your four-legged exercise machine.
Great. So our next panelist is the co-author of Ageless Love, The Sexy Science of Falling in Love Forever. Dr. Barbara Grossman received her PhD in theology and counseling from Claremont School of Theology in 1991. And I'd like to address briefly to our audience what it is about relationships that's so important.
So yes, I believe in relationships. They cause tremendous joy and pleasure. They also create a lot of angst and struggle. And it's an opportunity to really learn and grow and develop yourself, become a much finer human being, and to have the love of your life. And there are specific skills we believe you need to learn in order to create that joy, pleasure, and personal development. And I'm happy to be here to promote that so that you turn the relationships into the most amount of pleasure and joy possible.
Okay, and our next panelist is not only the co-author of the book mentioned, Ageless Love, and he is also the author of Secrets to Deep and Effortless Meditation, Revealing the Treasures Within. He's the #1 best-selling author, Dr. Michael Grossman, MD. He is quite extraordinary in his more than 40 years in family practice and anti-aging medicine. Dr. Grossman, Secrets to Deep and Effortless Meditation. Why is meditation so important?
Meditation is foundational in creating a physiology that is based on calmness and reducing stress. And that is essential for longevity and for wellness, particularly in our modern culture where we're so busy on cell phones and computers. And I teach a meditation that is effortless and allows you to feel that deep, deep peace. And it's part of what I do in my medical practice as an anti-aging doctor. I do many different facets of medicine in terms of bioidentical hormones, stem cells, exosomes, platelet-rich plasma, working on sexual dysfunction for men and women, and dealing with all the areas that are involved with creating fulfilling romantic partnerships. And I teach classes with my wife, Dr. Barbara. And so that's all part of things, and meditation fits into that. You've got to be able to feel a sense of peace, connection to the spiritual realms in order to have a fulfilling life. Thank you.
Excellent. So I'd like to pose to the panelists, what is necessary to be happy and fulfilled? Who would like to answer that question first?
Take your pick.
Well, I'm waiting for the microphone to sort of walk its way down here. No, not that one, the small one. There we go. Okay, good. So what's the question again?
What is necessary to be happy and fulfilled? Is it money? Is it expressions of creativity? What is it in your mind that working with your clients, with your people, and where does health play a role in happiness and well-being?
You know, I believe it's a sense of connection with yourself and then with the people around you. A lot of people are energetically disjointed. They don't feel together for whatever happened in their lives. And we got a sort of Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, and everyone's got their own Humpty Dumpty story. And you got to put it back together so they feel like they want to connect. So you have like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and you got to have your basics, you know, air and water, and then you can want to have a sense of belonging. Once you have that, then you can have a sense of safety, and it goes higher and higher as you can evolve, and there's going to be a sense of community later on. But I really believe that happiness, you have to have those lower realms met first before you can try to achieve the upper realms. So being healthy, being connected, knowing who you are, and then having a community around you, preferably that will assist you to further your goal, and then you can help them. So like-minded individuals, and that's why we're here. So we have our own community, and that's gonna help us feel connected and feel healthy, and then we can go on together.
Excellent, I love it. Dr. C. Scott,
Okay.
where does the realm of happiness and well-being come in your philosophy? Where do dogs fit?
Well, dogs fit into my purpose, and I really think that in order to have that self-actualization that Maslow talked about, I don't even know if they teach that in school anymore, but self-actualization is really when you come together and you just are absolutely certain that you're here for a reason and that people are really getting the value out of what you're doing. when that happens, your whole life will just come together for you. It really stems out of purpose. But yes, community is important. There are all these things from the blue zones that are all really important for longevity. I always say body plus mind plus spirit equals longevity. That's an equation I kind of came up with. But I've got a few different equations. But I really think that longevity is really easier when you have a purpose and when you're guided and directed and you feel good about what you're doing. So when you tap into that blueprint within yourself, you're going to be able to do that. And then at that point when you're successful, you will bring fabulous people into your life. And I don't want to discount health. I mean, that's kind of how I got started in this whole longevity thing through, you know, being an exercise person and trainer to the stars. So I don't want to discount it, but honestly, the purpose thing is really big for me.
Woo!
Good. So, Dr. Barbara Grossman, happiness and a feeling of satisfaction, where does that come into a person's life? How do we bring more happiness
I
and
like your
joy?
answer about purpose. I think that's great, but also relationships are real important, especially intimate relationships. That's where you really face yourself.
Stay with the big mic a little bit, Barbara. Yeah.
Both mics.
Do both.
Okay. It's where you face yourself and you get feedback like there's no better feedback possible. And you're forced, because you're invested in the people you care about, to learn, grow, and refine yourself. Learn how to speak more in a way that's more effective, how to adjust your habits. There's just a lot of personal growth that comes from important personal relationships. So the combination of having purpose and being involved in committed, special relationships is, I think, the ticket for development and life satisfaction.
Just one more question, Dr. Barbara Grossman. Is it possible to fall in love more than once during one's lifetime?
Yes, it's possible. It's easier to fall in love than it is to live love.
Ooh.
And so
That's deep.
the journey to living love involves learning skills that you don't learn when you're growing up in your family. You learn in life. You learn because the maturity and sophistication of an adult life is much more complex than childhood. And while your mom and dad might teach you, don't speak back to them, there's a lot more skills to learn to have a good romantic love relationship that lasts a lifetime.
Wow, beautiful. Dr. Michael Grossman, the idea of happiness and joy in one's life, where do you put that, and how can we bring more joy and love in our life?
So, the big study on happiness and longevity is still going on. 86 years ago, it started in 1938 in Harvard. They studied 750 or so men, some of them in Harvard, some of them in the surrounding poor areas, and they tested them every year, gave them all kinds of tests to see their longevity. And this study was surprising. After 20 or so years, they began to see, oh my goodness, all the things we thought were critical were not critical. The things that were critical was the quality of the personal relationships of the individual. It wasn't cholesterol or being overweight or their exercise program, although those are valuable things. The most important thing was the quality of personal relationships. And that study is still going on now, and the research is getting more and more absolutely clear cut that you have to have good personal relationships to create longevity, particularly after the age of 50. So there's a lot of things that can go on in personal relationships in your 30s and 40s. You're changing and growing, and you used to be more open to just being involved with your lovers or lover. And then when you get to be in your 40s, you want to have that all inside you. You don't want to be just doing things for other people. And that creates a lot of complexity. And Dr. Barbara and I run courses in marriage, and it's real critical that the people, to create happiness, have to learn skills that allow you to be independent and at the same time have an intimate relationship. You have to learn the skills of listening and not interrupting your partner and not trying to be right and them wrong. You gotta understand they're different than you. And you have to be able to make requests of your partner so that they know what makes you happy, and you don't just hold it inside yourself and then complain. And so you have to learn how to make requests nicely. When you do that, then you transform your life, not just in having a good personal relationship, but your health, your well-being, you're feeling connected to God and to your family, and it changes your whole life. And that's what we teach in our marriage classes.
Okay, so Dr. Jeffrey Benton, the idea of love and connection, I think we're all in agreement, it's one of the most important skills that we must develop, and it's not just taught in the family. Where does health come if we're in pain, if we're struggling? How can we enjoy a love life? How can we enjoy our life if we have disruption at both the emotional and the physical level?
It's difficult. It's difficult to have, say like an more intimate love life, because once again, I'll go back to the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You know, if you don't have some of your basics, if you're in pain all the time, you're always needy, and it's hard to be able to give or to give into a relationship if you're hurting. You say, oh man, I'm still hurting. How do I get out of this? And it could be a cycle, and a lot of times we were talking in my lecture about epigenetics, that what causes this gene expression is actually in us. We are the creators of our reality. We see more and more proof of that. We look at Wim Hof. He goes and he's melting icebergs with his body heat. It's unbelievable, but he does it with his mind. You have people, these magicians that do the most amazing things, and they've been training their minds for years. Our mind is the most powerful part, and if someone is in pain chronically, then we have to find out, like a technique like mine, what's wrong with that software. We have to clear the bad software that got programmed in there, either younger, at an earlier time this lifetime, or at a previous lifetime. Because if you have a baby that's born with hydrocephalus, well, who caused that? The baby and the parents this life didn't cause that, but the baby was born with it. Where did that come from? You got to look farther back and deeper and clear that stuff out. And that's where health is so paramount to get that. And then you can start having a sense of well-being and love, which is all that we strive for.
Beautiful. Okay. So Dr. Scott, when you are evaluating the need for gut health and supplements, does this play a role in one's overall mental and health well-being?
Relationships?
Well, supplements and gut health, is there some interplay that ultimately helps with mental and physical wellness? And if so, what supplements do you like, and what gut health products do you like?
Well, I know you've got some good products.
Throw out there whatever you feel.
But I'm a really big proponent of bioidentical hormones.
Yes.
I think actually...
Even for women using testosterone?
Absolutely.
Very good.
I mean, you can't give somebody estrogen and not testosterone, they'll become a crybaby.
That's right.
I've seen it over and over. So I think it's great to get rid of the fogginess in your brain and be able to relate better, pay better attention, have focus. I think that would definitely help relationships. But when we are talking about, gut health and everything else, your body is a whole. And when people suffer, even if it's temporary, if someone in their life should pass on, or if they lose their job, or if they move to a new place and they don't have a sense of community, Yeah, I do think it could cause some other areas of their life to take a dip. So what I normally tell people to do is, if you're not with it, you gotta go volunteer, find an organization to go volunteer for. And the other thing is definitely exercise, because you can go down to the A4M and talk to 9,000 physicians and ask them what the number one thing you can do to stay young is. They're gonna tell you it's exercise. And I'm very big on exercise. I try never to miss workouts. Of course, we all do sometimes. We have commitments and, things that come up. But we want to take care of our bodies and our minds and our spirits. And I always say, body plus mind plus spirit equals longevity. And community cannot be underrated as well. To have good, clear communication. I'm sure you're big on that.
And I just want to add that Dr. Nick and I do, was it a 12-minute workout?
Yes?
So
12 minutes each.
12 minutes each, so 24 minutes. This is where we tag team up, and we are doing concentric and eccentric exercises until we're burned out. And I'm like a little snail, and like all my muscles are burned up. And it's a great workout in the world of what you need to do. You need to work out and work out hard. Okay, it releases all the good endorphins. It burns the stress out of your body. So we're definitely big proponents of it. And maybe we'll do it tomorrow morning.
I'm down tonight, if not tomorrow morning. So
Tonight.
Dr. Barbara Grossman, ballroom dancing. We just mentioned about weight training, and I know actually Dr. Jeffrey Benton's a great ballroom dancer, but give us your impression of where does that involve a couple and emotional well-being and happiness, this ballroom dancing, that you're a competitive dancer, you and your husband of, 50 years you've been married together?
It's a great.
54, yes!
Ballroom dancing is a fabulous hobby. First of all, you're dancing to the best music in the world. You're dancing with someone you care about, and you have to coordinate your mind and your body, and include a smile in that, because dancing doesn't work if you're not smiling, and have it all come together. So it takes a lot of brain coordination, and it's phenomenal exercise. You're dancing in the space of at least a basketball court, and so it's not like a small little date night cafe. It's a real huge space where you're moving quickly and you're dynamic, and you want to have nice lines of form, and to have your body moving in artistic forms with the best music in the world is a joy. And
Do you choose your music, by the way?
Well, we choose it in the sense that we're ballroom dancers. We're not Latin dancers. Latin's a different rhythm, a different tone. I'm more romantic, so ballroom is my style. And there's nothing like doing a waltz with the man you love and covering a ballroom, the ballroom space, and moving. The form is enormous. The coordination is phenomenal. It takes a lot of practice. It's not as easy as it looks.
Hours of practice?
Months and months. Actually, we've been dancing for 10 years.
Okay.
And we dance competitively. So it's a delicious hobby. I recommend it for anyone. And you meet nice people. Nice people dance. You don't get mean people who dance. And it's just a lovely hobby, and it makes me happy.
So, Dr. Michael Grossman, the ability to dance, let's just be very direct. Let's just say, the 7th decade, the 8th decade potentially, 70, 80-year-olds, you must have met 80-year-olds as well. I know you and I are in our 77th decade, but the point is, what is it that it takes? Is it necessary? And do you believe, beyond what God gave us the ability to think through the science of bioidentical hormones, of peptides, of stem cells, things that might enable one's body, who otherwise might sit back in a couch and just want to sit and watch television and Netflix, but really get out there and be active, and actively, maybe they lost their partner, they're single and they want to ask a date and go out on a date. Is it necessary, or are you going to function as well as you could mentally, physically, and emotionally without peptides, bioidentical hormones, and optimization with a well-trained physician's guidance?
When we study the blue zones, the areas that people live to 100 years frequently. There are certain things we see are going on in those cultures. They do certain things. They eat healthily, they're walking and alive, they're not sitting at home watching TV. They're outside and moving around. They have deep, profound interpersonal relationships, both husband and wife, and family and friends, and it's very intense. And all those things go together. The relationships, as I mentioned earlier, is the most foundational thing. But having the right exercise and activity is very important in longevity. And what makes ballroom dancing so special, and they've studied ballroom dancing, and they find that it is the best form of exercise for longevity. Because you have physical intensity. She says the size of a basketball court. You're going up and down, very intense. And you have to have your brain is totally focused. If you start flaking off and thinking about this and this, then all of a sudden you're tripping and you have no idea where you are in the dance routine. It's a very intense dance routine. And you also have the issue of you have to listen to the music. You got to stay on time. And so you have all these things going on in the brain. It's not like doing a puzzle, right? Or a crossword puzzle or something on the computer. Those have value to it. But the research shows ballroom dancing, where you got to do all these things all at once, keeps you young. But everything is a piece of being young. And ballroom dancing brings you into, you talk to the people you're competing against. They become your friends. You're competing with them, but you find you love them because they have the same values that you have.
Beautiful. So I would like to mention that if you notice the panels, they all look incredible. And we're not talking about 22-year-olds in all fairness. And the reality is that we each have some type of inner knowledge and protocol that we've come to independently, but we've come together on this panel because we agree that it's very important. With the release of my 16th book coming out in 2 weeks, How to Lose Weight Effortlessly, it's a 4-part series, and each of these people embody this philosophy. And part 1 and 2 starts with dealing with estrogen dominance, dealing with the knowledge and the importance of peptides. And we're going to describe a little bit more amongst this conversation about the importance of hormonal balance, particularly imbalances that cause significant challenges in helping to keep people fit and in shape and not retain fat inappropriately in areas they don't want to retain it, and peptides, how they work in synergy. Part 3 and 4 is hypnosis, timeline therapy, NLP, meditation, because I think without the harnessing of your own mind, because each of you have an independent journey in this world, and you have to know how to direct your mind to seek the right knowledge, whether it be the fact that the brain has 8 billion interconnections, and with that infinite number of connections to go beyond the ultimate AI machine, and yet we don't know how to use it properly. So when we learn and we guide the mind, we now can take it to the next level, a level that no one ever thought possible, whether it be getting in great shape, whether it be falling in love a second or third time if you lose a loved one, and or as Barbara would say, as a dating coach, maybe we need to date 3 different people, and during that time while we're single, we find out the benefits and the advantages of each individual we're with, because no individual might meet all of our needs, and then again, that one person might. So we really have something to look at, and Dr. Jeffrey Ben, with that in mind, if we have infinite capabilities with the brain and the ability, how do we then get the neurological connection to speak to parts of the body? We often neglect that. And how can we truly release emotional trauma? Is there some technique that you've discovered that I've experienced? And just if you could share with us and just pass that one little mic down. What is your comment about that neurological connection to love and happiness and well-being and pain-free life?
Thank you for it's a heavy question.
I'm expecting a heavy answer.
Well, I'm going to try to I'm gonna try to lighten it up.
Okay.
So, I discovered, I'll say I got a download, and I'm gonna make an analogy. Just like Sir Isaac Newton, he is credited to discovering gravity. You know, he was just fortunate enough to be sitting and relaxing under an apple tree, and an apple fell down, and he got curious why the apple fell down. Maybe why didn't it fly off in another direction? Why didn't it fall upwards? And he got curious about something that is inherent. It's inherent in the part of the world, the makeup of the world. So I've discovered the mechanism of how trauma outside, trauma happens usually external, it could happen internal if we have indigestion and stuff, but generally we look at trauma, something happens external to us, and yet we feel it. It's internalized, and there's an actual mechanism that lets it get internalized. By understanding that mechanism, I sort of reverse engineer it with people, and I've written a book about it, and that book describes, thank you, the book actually describes how you can start doing it for yourself. How you can start reverse engineering the trauma out of your system. I mean, right here, I met this lovely lady, and this person was human trafficked for a number of years, and then she was abducted. This is a partial alien conference. She was abducted through aliens for a number of years, and I just did a little example to her of some physical trauma, muscle testing, and then look, just go to one of these places where you were abducted, and she had a hard time putting it back into her psyche. I asked her to bring it up. She did. Her muscle completely went weak, and then I couldn't really go there with it because it would take me an hour just sitting. And that's what I do. I have to go to a deep, dark place to clear that out, and then it took her several minutes to sort of put it back in her subconscious, where she had it locked up. And if you clear that trauma out, then you have so much more energy for your vitality. You can see before and after pictures at my booth and my videos. They're untouched, but you take trauma out of someone, and it's not a Botox filler, it's not a special cream. It releases the trauma, you get more energy for living. And that's what I've discovered.
Wow, I like the answer. Dr. Scott, what is it about red light therapy? And don't we get enough from the outdoor sun? And are there certain rays of the sun that are beneficial for certain people of light complexion? Is there the ability of utilizing peptides that help to maybe darken the skin, protect one? But what is the added advantage, if there is, of some type of, I believe it's a light therapy that you're a strong proponent of?
Okay. You can get benefits of the sun certain times of day. There is a light spectrum that we go through every day. We start with the red light, and by noon we've got white light. So we are kind of going through that prism, that rainbow, and then the last light of the day, the beautiful light right before it goes dark, that's also red light. Now, there is an inverse law of light, a law of physics that says the farther away the light is, the less you're going to really absorb. So I really strongly recommend that you get a very powerful red light device so that you can really absorb this red light. The light gets into the mitochondria of your cells. It's the powerhouse of your cell. And what it's going to do is, if you've got a viable cell that's healthy, or just viable, maybe it's not super healthy, but it's a decent cell, it's going to energize that cell, and you're going to enjoy benefits from that. If there's inflammation, you're going to be able to alleviate inflammation. I could go into a zillion things there, but I'm going to try to laser this because there are a lot of people here. So you want to get that light as close to the body as possible due to the inverse law of light. But the question, I think, is, how do you benefit?
Yeah, what kind of benefits do people
My
notice?
gosh, every system of your body, if you enjoy this treatment, and it's very painless treatment, by the way, if you enjoy this treatment, you can benefit with every single organ your skeletal system, your skin, everything. There's nothing that it won't help. It will help your cognitive world, everything. So, I mean, I've heard red light therapy called testicle tanning. I mean, it's good for your sex life. It's good for everything. So, I could just tell you, if you use a very powerful bed, maybe 5 days in a row, you're gonna see changes. You're gonna definitely know you did it. Your back pain may go away if you have back pain. You may be suffering with constipation. All of a sudden, everything's gonna start flowing. You're not gonna believe what kind of changes it really does. It's really quite miraculous.
Well, there was a study that showed that literally laying outdoors naked, where the testicles are exposed to the sun for a certain number of minutes or so forth, increased LH luteinizing hormone, increased testosterone production. Of course, men and of course women feel better when they're exposed. You go out on a vacation, you're outdoor in the sun. So how many treatments would one benefit from? It's not easy to run outdoors right now. We're all in clothes and run out naked and get the sun. So your particular device, what frequency is beneficial?
I feel a joke coming on. I'm gonna resist. But
Tell it, it's okay. We're in this audience.
the frequencies that are really great,
Yeah.
660 is, I mean, you can go a little lower, a little higher. 660 is really great for the skin, but you want to go all the way up into the near infrared. You want to go up to maybe 940 if you can, but your typical devices are going to have 880, 660, something like that. So the invisible light in the spectrum is actually your near infrared. That's the 880 or the 940. And, having a couple of the lower ones, you could get your dermis, your epidermis, that kind of thing. It's great for collagen production, and those lights are red. You'll be able to see it. But if you've got a device and every single light on that device is red, it's not penetrating very deep. So these are nanometers. These wavelengths are nanometers. They go 660 nanometers or 680 nanometers, or whatever it is. So you want to get a good spectrum of red into this near infrared, which is invisible light. So a lot of people get a device and they say, hey, half of these lights are off. Well, maybe they're not off, maybe they're just invisible.
Beautiful. So, Dr. Barbara Grossman, when you encounter a couple that has undergone distress because maybe we have a dating issue amongst the couple and they're not making a regular date night, if you will, and somehow they're going in two different directions, driven hard. You might see it quite often in your practice, I'm not sure, but how do you bring that couple back together if they truly want to stay together? And if so, if there's some disparity or change in attraction to someone outside of the relationship, are you able to help them mend and get that communication back, or sometimes or often? What is the frequency of being able to help that couple to pull together that emotional and physical connection? Because physical, would you agree, even as we age, is as or even more important as we age, to keep connected, not just be, if you will, roommates?
Absolutely, I believe in sex. It's important for a bond.
Period.
But here's the thing, when we come together in relationships, we're attracted to someone else, but basically we live inside our own individuality. The challenge of partnership is two individualities coming together and really creating connection and understanding that, it takes really sharing yourself, understanding yourself, and not believing you're right and self-righteous all the time, but realizing that there's two rights in every conversation, in every conflict. And so there's a skill set to learn. That's actually the value of relationships, because there's no reason to learn that if you're just an individual, because you just live with yourself, and of course you're right, and you create your life, and you set the direction and make it happen. When you have a partner, you've got to deal with a whole other entity who has the same process, but it's unique to their personality. And so the lifespan of a relationship gives you that broad development that brings real true understanding of oneself and another person, and it allows for the growth of love. That when you fall in love with someone, that's just the beginning. It's just sort of like the seasoning on the top of the cake, which isn't the whole cake yet. And there's so many steps to take that really amplifies and develops your heart, your mind, your spirit. It's a lifelong journey and process. It's delicious. I believe in it because there's no other way to really evolve and mature.
Beautiful. Dr. Michael Grossman, you must come in the realm of a man or a woman comes to you, but is it more likely the man coming to you saying, listen, I have clinical ED, he doesn't diagnose himself, but listen, I'm with this woman I love, I can't seem to perform, and what can you do to help me, doctor?
It's more often the man, but women often have problems too, but it's not as dramatic. If a man cannot have an erection, there's no sexual intimacy. If a woman has some discomfort or doesn't have good sensations, you can still have sexual intercourse. So it's the men who come more than the woman, but the women have issues too. 90% of the time, I can dramatically improve sexual functioning in men. The only time I can't improve it is when they've had 10 years of no erections at all. Things are so far down, gone, injured, decayed, that reversing it becomes not likely. But for people who've had 2-3 years of no sexual functioning and not having good erections, those are easy fixes. You can repair and reverse it. We use acoustic wave. I use the Omni Wave, the newest form, which is painless. The old ones were very painful. And it works very well to stimulate repair. There's no real signaling to repair sexual dysfunction because there's no bleeding, there's no real injury, but we can stimulate it with the acoustic wave. We can increase the repair stimulation with exosomes, stem cells, platelet-rich plasma. It's very dramatic. It works on any injury in the body, whether it be a back, or a knee, a shoulder, a hip, or sexual dysfunction. It is dramatic to repair and rejuvenate decayed, injured body parts. And the body often doesn't know how to repair it because it doesn't get a signal. But if the signal is there, the body sends all these repair cells out, and it works very well, and it's quite dramatic. And in terms of changing relationships, as Dr. Barber says, sexual functioning is a critical part of romantic partnerships. And the studies show when people have active sexual lives, they're healthier, emotionally and physically. It changes the endorphins, it changes the brain waves, it changes the feeling of being connected emotionally. So it's not just pleasure, it actually is very important for longevity and health and the quality of the relationship.
Beautiful. So, Dr. Jeffrey Ben, in your observations, is there the probability that the spine and the back and urology, obviously there's this situation where a man, if he's having trouble, particularly in the back, and if they're making love, but it's under the assumption that, I'll just be blunt, intercourse is the only way to please a woman, which in my book, Mastering Love, Sex, and Intimacy, I coined the fact that Ian Curran, who wrote another book that matched my belief, and that is, the title of his book was more direct, She Comes First.
Period.
And that being said, we as men need to become less selfish and realize that a woman isn't really pleased, quote, during intercourse. It's really for the man's pleasure. Although I had a man who underwent a construction accident and he was completely paralyzed from the waist down, and he had a beautiful wife and he felt very incapable, and yet he would please her orally and with a vibrator and so forth, but he couldn't make love to her. And so I introduced him to PT-141, Trimix, a product called Amore, and estrogen clearance products. And he was able to make love to his wife, even though he had been paralyzed for years, for the first time in his life. And he told me very directly, he felt like a man again. And she certainly felt good about him feeling good about himself. So, Dr. Ben, are there people that have neurological damage, something that went wrong with their back or their neurology, and they're not connected, maybe had a bad sexual experience that they felt inadequate? Are these people, can they be helped?
Well, everybody can be helped as long as they're breathing and they have a spine that works.
Okay.
So there's so much hope, and there's help for a lot of people. If we're looking specifically at erectile dysfunction in men, neurology is part of it. If someone fell down and fractured their coccyx or sacrum, and anatomically we know that the nerve supply to that general area of the body stems from there. So that's one area. But we know that's also hormonal areas. We also know there's a whole psychological aspect. If a man feels good about himself to a certain extent, there was a groundbreaking study. It's in my book where there was a weight loss study, and it was I think a combination between Kaiser and university. They were noticing people were losing weight, but then they stopped losing weight. And both men and women stopped losing weight, and there became an emotional barrier. For example, men who are like bouncers didn't want to lose more weight because they won't be so big and
Bulky and
bulky.
big.
Mm-hmm. Some women won't lose weight because it's a defense mechanism. If they
Yes.
lose more weight, then they'll look more attractive, and they might be attracting these men that they don't want to be attracted to. So it's a multifactorial issue of erectile dysfunction. It's not pure neurological. And then of course we're talking about hormones and peptides, and these are all messengers. These are all triggering peptides that are messenger peptides. So there's a lot involved here. I actually did. I had a health booth, and I spoke at a convention for people who want to have children, and they couldn't. So it's an infertility clinic, and because no one really, they all talk about these expensive procedures. We're in the $30,000. Let's go get the eggs, and why not we ask a different question? Why is the sperm and egg not getting together? What is there an emotional, spiritual? In someone's past life, they were raped, so that gets passed through, and then no one thinks about connection as a trauma that's handed down generation to generation, even though it's listed in the Bible a couple of times about so I'm willing to look that way as well.
So, Dr. Scott, from a female perspective, how do you deal with a situation where is it the woman's responsibility to guide the man into what would please that individual situation or woman? And you do some counseling with couples, do you?
Yes, not allowed anymore, but I would say definitely you would want to ask for what will work for you.
Oh.
Because not every woman is the same, and you would want to have a good experience. If you don't have a good experience, I think it is a little bit your responsibility. And let's put it this way, I always say, do your best and God does the rest. So if your best includes showing up the right way for this lovemaking experience, show up the right way. Don't show up in a way that's not attractive, not sensual, maybe not clean. Don't show up that way. And then to not say things that might be a negative, and to try to ask for what you do want in a way that the other person can hear it. Yeah, I think those are your responsibilities as a woman. And if you're a man who is selfish and you just don't want to give it, well, don't expect a second chance. You might not get it. And I think that's fair too. It's a two-way street. You gotta communicate. That's what I think.
So, Dr. Barbara Grossman, in terms of communication, how do you broach the subject when a man feels that he's a good lover, and yet the woman clearly has not been pleased for years, and he takes offense to being told, I never had enjoyment in the bedroom with you? Is this something that sometimes comes up?
Well, perhaps, but that certainly isn't the way to bring the subject up.
Yeah.
There's Michael and I teach couples. We coach couples to make requests and say them nicely, and you want to describe behaviors. You don't want to, and you want to be positive. You want to say it would make me really happy if you do such and such, and you specify it.
We can't hear you.
And you want to thank any effort in the direction of what you've asked for. So if you don't get 100%, you don't complain. You appreciate the additional effort that you've experienced, and you grow the relationship that way. And the relationship is a learning experience. No one teaches us that until we love someone enough to be willing to discipline ourselves and not just say the first thing that comes to mind. And so if you want a soft request space to say what you believe will make you happy. And if it makes you happy, you want to appreciate the heck out of it and appreciate your partner.
So Dr. Michael Grossman, how do you help people accomplish reaching their ideal body weight and fitness level? Is there an emotional component that you consult people with, and also a physical? Is there peptides that help with weight loss? Is there hormones that help with weight loss? And a degree of diet and exercise? How do you take on a person who is truly wanting to lose weight, and secondary gain isn't their issue? They're not trying to keep the weight on to protect themselves, but they've been struggling most of their life. And most people seem to struggle. Tell me about it.
So that's a very important area of general health and well-being. And the foundational thing that I do is to get men and women on the right balance of hormones, particularly testosterone. If you get the right amount, then your body behaves like it's 30 years old, not 60 or 80. And that allows you to feel good about exercise. And that's foundational. And then you do have to talk to your clients about eating habits. And if they're pre-diabetic or diabetic, you have a whole arena you have to work on. The hemoglobin A1C tells you if you're pre-diabetic or not. 6.0 is beginning of diabetes. 5.7 is pre-diabetes. You want to be not in the diabetic range or pre-diabetic range. If you are, then you have to deal with sugar and refined carbohydrates. That is really critical. And you've got to work with your doctor and change your dietary habits. Sometimes dietary habits are related to food cravings that are like allergies. Alcoholics crave alcohol, and that's a critical problem to be an alcoholic. The way you get rid of the alcohol problem is by total abstinence. 5 days later, you don't crave the alcohol anymore, and you're good. You might be good for 6 months or 6 years or whatever, and then you start drinking alcohol, you become an alcoholic again. Food allergies can work the same way. If you're craving certain foods, like, oh, I've got to eat this sugar, I've got to eat this ice cream, got to have this or that. If you're craving it, you've got to totally avoid it. Wheat allergies, very common. Dairy allergies. And then when the cravings are gone 5 days later, no big deal, I don't need that, it's no big deal. As soon as you start eating it, you crave it again. So there's a lot of different factors. We also use a variety of peptides. So the peptides I prefer are the peptides that are growth hormone releasing factors. We have tesamorelin, CJC, samorelin. These release growth hormone from the pituitary, and besides increasing sleep and dreaming more, it allows you to lose fat and gain muscle and feel more energy. So that makes you feel like you're 20 years younger, which is really critical. And everybody loses growth hormone as you get older. It's not an occasional thing, it's like, that's part of aging. So there are many different steps to take to deal with people who have weight problems. It's not simple one thing to do, but you've got to work with your doctor and they'll guide you through these processes.
Okay, so Dr. Jeffrey Ben, were you born genetically fit? It's easy to keep your weight down, or do you find yourself needing to partake in some type of consistent exercise? Being a practitioner, you're working long hours, you're helping other people, and then what is it and what are you open to get to the next level to achieve your ideal fitness level each decade moving forward as our audience is facing? How many here, by the way, are above your ideal body weight? How many here are below your ideal body weight? Okay. So let's address that, Dr. Ben.
So I believe that I am overall genetically fit. I noticed that during high school, I started binge eating on just junk food and fun, and I stopped it pretty quickly. I did it for a few months, wasn't feeling good, and I had all this acne, and I go, well, I just gotta stop this. I guess there was a break at school, and I would go across to the drugstore and just buy whatever. So, and overall, I've been pretty good. As I get older, it's harder for me to force myself to want to go to the gym. So, and since we don't live that close to each other, because it would be good if we did, we were working out. I have a trainer, and I'll go once or twice a week. And I just haven't really focused on getting my pull-up strength, so my upper body strength to go. And then, because then once I'm at the gym, it's there. But it's so easy as you get older and you get involved with your business, and like it's never ending. You know, you got the social media,
your business is never
business never ends. It just doesn't stop. As you know, we gotta publish. We have to publish repairs. We have to treat patients. Now, because I'm a clinician, so I like to speak. I like to dance. I like to talk. I have to be, so I do a lot, and making time for the exercises is hard. It's hard. So, I belong to 24-Hour Fitness. I've been there for a long time. And they had a nice New Year's special, and I re-up, and it forces me to go in, and someone to tell me to do stuff I know how to do. But if someone tells you to do it, then it's good. You really should have a partner as you get older to partner up and get the workout in. And I always feel great afterwards.
So, Dr. Scott, were you born genetically fit like you look now, or you had to work at it to get in shape?
Oh, boy.
The other mic.
Well.
Both.
Well, honestly, I was born tall, so that can be a really good thing. I've also been in fitness contests, like nationally, and won titles. But let me tell you, it's not that easy when you're tall, because the shorter people can put on muscle a lot easier. So has it been easy for me to be fit? I would probably have to say yes. I've had some experiments in my life with leaving things out of my diet. I would recommend that for anybody. Try no wheat, try no dairy, try a lot of things. I did the Pritikin diet when I was in high school, and I was not overweight. I've never really been overweight in my entire life. So
just to pause a moment, I was the director of the Nathan Pritikin Better Health Program for about 3 years, from 1978 to 1981. And so every night after I would conduct and create classes and programs, 6 weekly classes, I would meet with Nathan Pritikin himself at the Pritikin Longevity Center, and we would talk about therapies and treatments and sessions and outcomes. And we came to a 6-week conclusion that it took 6 weeks for people to change their taste buds. That the first week they would eat the foods and they go, well, where's the sugar? Where's the oils? Where's the junk food? Where's the grease? And then by the second week, they're still struggling. Third week, by the sixth week, they had to do a potluck and make recipes from the book we had provided them. And they'd come to me and they'd say, see, if you had made these recipes from the very first week, I would have never been discouraged. But do you notice how much better my recipe is than the ones you gave me the first week? And I'm looking at them like, I taste their food. I'm like, it's identical. Their taste buds have changed.
yeah.
And then from there, they're usually after 6 weeks, potentially home free, 20 years, 30 years, and clients 45 years later still adhering to, I won't say the Pritikin program, a Pritikin light, because I loosened it up to include nuts, seeds, avocados, olives in reasonable amounts. And those people who are underweight need to eat more in the spectrum of nuts, seeds, avocados, olives, more beans and peas, more rice, more sweet potatoes, and less fruits and vegetables. Otherwise, it's going to be hard to keep your weight on. More fruits and vegetables, soups and salads if you're trying to keep the weight down. But no fasting. We never had people fast, ever in our program. They never went through the pain of fasting.
Okay? And fasting can be painful. But one experiment I had on myself recently, my meniscus was torn in my leg, my shoulder capsule was torn, and I had a very difficult time sleeping. And you really can't have good recovery without sleep. And whenever you're working out, if you're doing resistance training, you really need to recover from that. Your body, what you're doing is you're microtearing your muscles, and you need to rebuild them, so you need to eat a lot of protein and you need to sleep. So I really stopped working out, so I definitely lost some muscle mass, and I thought to myself, oh gosh, I'm probably gonna get fat now too, because even though I try to do everything in moderation, I do things that are definitely things Dr. Nick would not do. I drink some alcohol, I eat sugar, I do things that he doesn't do. I do them in moderation, and I tend to get away with all this stuff. And I actually did not put on weight, which was very, very shocking, because I wasn't doing the cardio I had been doing, wasn't doing the weight training. So maybe I am a little bit genetically gifted. I'm a Viking. I'm told by my husband, who is Dr. Scott, I'm Dr. C. I'm told that I got the greatest genetics ever. Now, I could find things wrong with it, but I guess I'm a little bit gifted, and I just don't really have a lot of the problems that some people have.
Very cool, Dr. C. So, Dr. Barbara Grossman, are there things that within the realm of relationships, do you think people try and keep themselves in shape better if they're in a quality relationship?
Well, I think when you love someone, you are motivated to be your best, and that's a good thing. Where do you want me to take this?
Well, I'm just wondering, if you look in the mirror at yourself as an individual and in relationship to a couple, isn't there a higher degree of self-confidence if you look in shape and you feel good? I mean, are these things that people should at least not maybe shame themselves or feel bad about it, but aspire to and prioritize themselves to fit in a 12-minute workout, go out for a dance. Dancing is a great form of exercise. Go salsa dancing. Go, do some things you enjoy doing. Go outdoors, run on the beach. We live near the beach. We're the greatest place in the world, although we're streaming to other parts of the world, so they don't have that advantage. So do you think that feeling a sense of self-worth by taking care of yourself, isn't there a higher degree of sensitivity in a relationship if you're in love with someone versus you're all by yourself? And they say 40% of young people aged 20 to 40 haven't asked someone out on a date in 3 years. So they're at home and they have no one to reflect on.
Well, it's motivating to want to look good for someone you care about and want to have a good connection with, for sure. But it's also good to do it for your own well-being. So both, whatever motivates you, it's always good to eat well and exercise and be your best, for sure.
Yeah, and for those people in the audience who are trying to gain weight, each of my workout partners or romantic partners, I ask them, are you willing to go to the gym with me and work out? And since it's a highly intense 12-minute workout, it doesn't take up much time. And I've been blessed, and a lot of my business friends and associates are willing to go work out with me. And or if I have no one to work out, I will make the effort, because it's only maybe takes me 20 minutes when I don't have a workout partner, because the intensity isn't quite there, but I get that workout in. So if I look back over 45 years, when I used to weigh over 210 pounds, and now I'm at my ideal weight, 159, my net result is I've worked out an average of 3 times a week for over 45 years, with the exception of a bad injury on a motorcycle accident, and I felt completely incapacitated. It was very helpless feeling. So I know how people who are struggling with back pain or physical pain or issues Or maybe they made the excuse they don't have time to exercise, but exercise needs to be part of one's life.
Absolutely, it's good to do what works. Now, I don't particularly love, I have one of those Stairmasters at home, and I look at it regularly, I don't get on it. But for me, I dance, practice, maybe 5 times a week, and I do what I love, and I think that's the ticket to staying on discipline and on schedule with your commitments for well-being.
Had you ever been overweight?
Absolutely. I think sometime when I was having babies, there was a point in time where I think I remember seeing on the scale 160 pounds, which was the weight my grandmother weighed, so I knew it was bad news. And so I had to make big changes, but I don't have to think about calories anymore because I'm exercising regularly.
Nice. Dr. Grossman, had you ever been overweight, or you've been blessed with great genetics your whole life?
I was very overweight, 185 pounds, for quite a long time, but ice cream was good. I really enjoyed it. And I changed what I was eating, and I couldn't eat less. I had to eat none, and that was
None of the bad things.
I don't eat any ice cream. I don't eat any soda kind of things. I don't eat anything that is bad, and I don't crave it. Once I stop eating it, the craving is gone. Bread, oh, was I into bread? I love bread. And it took a while, but once I found out that I could stop eating those things that I craved and not crave it anymore, it changed it. And now I don't have to think about weight loss. It's not a factor. It's not a part of my life anymore.
Beautiful. So I'm going to open it up to the audience. Is there any questions that you're burning to ask any of the panelists or the group of panelists, and we'll weigh in on your question? Does anyone have a question that you would like to ask? Raise your hand, and we'll hand a microphone to you. Let's hand a microphone to this gentleman. AV person, do you have an extra microphone you can run to him?
Well, we got those 4.
Okay.
Well, we can take those
Steal
too.
one of them.
We can give you one.
All right, Zeus, if you run it back to the gentleman there who raised his hand.
Who raised your hand, baby?
Okay, and yeah, please hold both mics to your mouth and ask the question. The black one to your mouth. Yes.
Hi, thank you for taking my question. I wonder if any of you could share insight on something I've been thinking about for a very long time. What is the source of food cravings? Are they primarily psychosomatic, or is it the additives that are in the food, or what's the real origin? Because we crave so many things which are bad for us, and yet the body hungers for them. Thank you.
Right. So you're going to bring me his thing there? Oh my gosh. There you go. So I think that it's partly psychological, but mostly physiological. So for some people, when they get depressed, they crave sugars, and they get a temporary lift from it, and that can be psychological. But I think that it's mostly physiological, where you crave the things, as I mentioned, where you're really allergic to it, just like alcoholics. And it's not psychological. Alcoholics can crave alcohol because they get a certain good feeling from the alcohol. It's relaxing. Everybody gets relaxing from it. But if you're alcoholic, when it begins to wear off, your body goes crazy and says, I need more. You're on heroin, you need more when it starts wearing off. You're allergic to gluten, you crave the gluten, and then you eat it, you feel good, and then a day or two later, it's worn off, and you have to have it. That's not psychological, that's physiological. And I think that's the big factor here. People who occasionally crave sweets when they get depressed or upset, that's a different thing. That's not so overwhelming. Yeah.
I've had some talks with our new Health and Human Services Secretary, Bobby Kennedy, and he definitely believes that there are additives in our food, that do make us crave things. A lot of these additives are not in foods in other countries. They're banned. And we're really getting to a place where some of the companies are starting to make better choices. But of course, maybe they'll make less money. Maybe they're using cheaper ingredients. Maybe they have to use something that's of a higher quality that's gonna cost them more, and maybe it's less addictive. And food is addictive. I've got, I'm gonna tell you something about being a leader, a thought leader, and, dealing with people's minds and bodies. You can't be Jesus in your own town a lot of times. And so I think all of us have suffered with some of our own families or friends that we just can't influence them. And I've got 2 young women in my family that are morbidly obese. And one of them is related to me genetically, and I told her, "You've won the genetic lottery. What are you doing?" But I can't make a change for her. I can't get her to change. And the other one I haven't started on yet, but I really, really want them to have better health. And weight is really a serious issue. It's very serious. You go into pre-diabetes and then diabetes, and you can go blind, you can lose your feet, there are a lot of things that can happen. It's a very bad cascade of possibilities. So I just wanna say, whatever it is, if you know you're doing too much of it, like Dr. Grossman says, take it out of your diet. And I would recommend to almost everybody, try to take wheat out. You won't believe how the puffiness, you might be experiencing some kind of bloating or something like that. You won't believe how your body will change for the better. So I would recommend that for sure.
Yeah. And I'd like to add something.
Sure.
You're reminding me that people who are allergic to wheat go to Europe and they can eat wheat. And how can that be? Because it's the glyphosate, it's the thing that they put in the wheat that they have pesticides, and so it's other factors as you're describing, and there may be so many other factors. In Europe, they outlawed so many food additives that we just added in. It's no big deal for Americans, but it's a big deal for the Europeans.
Yeah, I'd like to weigh in on the fact that in 47 years of teaching people about the importance of healthy diet and exercise, I got to the point where I realized I can speak till I'm blue in the face, show them exactly how to prepare the food, show them exactly how to do the exercise. But the ability to deal with the true addiction to craving drinking alcohol, or craving eating wings during the programming of watching the Super Bowl and everyone's drinking and eating junk food and so forth, and all the media commercials that hit you constantly. It's a little challenging for us as humans to ignore the tens of thousands of commercials that we've been exposed to. So I found over the years, I kept searching through what seemed to work. And part 3 of my coming book, How to Lose Weight Effortlessly, I came to the very clear conclusion there were 2 things that were necessary. One was that because we store memory in shape and color and size, we can journey back into your subconscious mind and take that first incident, and to Dr. Grossman's comments and Dr. Ben's comments, Dr. C's content, Dr. Barbara Grossman's content, is that we have been raised in a society that accepts being overweight. And it's okay, and we're not trying to shame people, but if I were to tell you, you can shift your story to that of a person who is in great shape, and although affirmations help, your critical thinking of your mind will say, when you look in the mirror and say, I'm in great shape, and you say that as an affirmation, your mind will say that's not true. And so you have to bypass critical thinking, and the way to do that is to shift your story. You could say, hey, in a trance or a light hypnotic state, which people don't fully understand trance, but when you meditate, your mind goes into a state, maybe almost an altered state of theta, a high learning state, where you're fully aware, but it's the time to access and embed certain, we call them commands, in hypnotic language, and we just say, look, I'm going to seek out mentor or individuals or information or podcasts. Each of these people have wonderful books. I have a podcast. We have shows and information. And when you start filling your mind with the right information on a daily basis, you're less likely to default to, we'll just call them habits that are not supporting you in your effort to achieve ideal weight and be in great shape, whether it be gain muscle. I like to gain muscle and lose fat rather than just losing weight, because you can starve yourself and empty your intestines. That's 10 pounds of weight. You can stop eating. That's going to dehydrate your body because you're going to default to burning body proteins. And proteins are very acidic, so you're going to take a lot of water out of your body to digest that protein, your own body protein. And you have a false sense of, on the weight scale, that you've lost weight. I mean, you look in front of the mirror, you take an honest, sincere picture of yourself and say, hey, this is where I'm at. And each month, as I start eating more high fiber foods, more vitally rich foods, and abstaining from foods that have no fiber and little or no sugar and so forth, then you shift that story and you put out there, I see myself exercising at least 12 to 20 minutes a day. And if you miss a day, you're exercising at least 3 to 4 times a week. Increase the intensity, and that's a fun thing we can teach you to do. But the bottom line is you're going to find yourself coming to a place where if you hang out with more people who are in great shape, and you hang out less with people who are poor, broke, out of shape, and depressed, and watch these soap operas that piss you off, and you hear people screaming and yelling at each other. I refuse to watch the television news. I refuse to watch these drama. I have enough drama in my life. I deal with people who have issues. So how many here feel that that would be a good move to program your mind in an empowering way? Let me see a show of hands.
No, I need
So
a little drama.
each of these people have a booth, or they have a book, or an opportunity. And how many here felt you were getting a really great message today? Okay. And what's your next question? Go ahead.
So this has always been perplexing and confusing, and genetics plays so much of a play here. So two-part question. I remember reading sometime in the past that if your genetics, or I think it was greater than 26, 27% Neanderthal, you needed to have meat in your diet. Your body needed meat to be healthy and sustain a good, healthy environment. Now, I just watched a video not too long ago. Here's this 102-year-old woman lives on a farm, and she claims she only eats each day bacon, eggs, meat, and what was the other things? Bacon, eggs, meat, and something else. No veggies, and she's 102. So what's going on there? Why is it that some people, I know a person who lost 100 pounds, over 100 pounds, on just eating a organic beef diet, and said that, she was eating everything under the sun before, and then she went straight beef and she lost pounds. So what's the genetic equation here?
Okay, so in answer to your question, I'll weigh in on that. Dr. C here has genetics. She's Viking, she's tall, she's more muscular and fit. She does optimize her testosterone levels. She told that openly to you. She is careful about what she eats, so she doesn't just splurge on anything and eat a lot of junk food. This is Nehemiah Delgado, not related to me. He's never had an ounce of meat of any kind, no fish, no chicken, no turkey, no eggs, no butter, no cheese, ever in his whole life. All he's eaten is fruits, vegetables, potatoes, rice, beans, peas, soups and salads, and whole grain, like European wheat, real food. He doesn't admit, but I would bet that he does use peptides and probably Ideally, most of the bodybuilders use steroids. I call them steroids synthetically. They use a dose of testosterone that's testosterone cypionate that's not bioidentical to the body. Dr. Grossman and I would lean in and say you could still get in great shape, even arguably in this good a shape, using bioidentical testosterone pellets, which have been used since what, the 1940s, Dr. Goldblade, Dr. Green, and so forth. You've been using pellets for how many years?
15.
15 years. On yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been using pellets for a better part of probably maybe a good 15 years. I used bioidentical testosterone hormone creams. I call it anabolic MD cream. I rub it on my skin and it absorbs into my body. I just like Dr. Grossman says, to have the testosterone level of a 22-year-old, not that of a 71-year-old. So I utilize peptides, I use bioidentical hormones. I don't know a person who's in shape who has the genetics. And by the way, you're born with 300 billion fat cells. You'll be obese eating the same food, a person who is born with only 100 billion fat cells, who would literally eat the same amount of meat, cheese, eggs, and dairy products and never gain weight, like my brother, who's genetically thin. He'll never gain weight, no matter what he eats. I've seen him eat everything under the sun and then eat clean. He eats clean now. I call clean. Plant-based, whole food, natural diet.
But you're not addressing the genetics.
The genetics is the problem. And if you do have genetic tendency to be very obese and fat, meat is not your best friend. The lady you're talking about, I would bet, has genetics like Dr. C. She can get away with eating a lot of meat and probably not get like massively obese at any time in her life. But her sister or someone related apparently has the genetics to gain weight and eats whatever she wants and did gain weight. A lot? Obese or what?
Her diet is atrocious.
What's atrocious? Tell me what's atrocious.
She eats, the only protein she eats is fried. So if it's like a chicken dinosaur or something, you know, chicken tender, that's her idea of protein. She can't eat a salad without a ton of dressing on it, and you know,
Oil,
most of that
fatty
is-
dressing.
You know, most of that's crap.
That's
Yeah.
my girl.
And she goes to a coffee place and she doesn't order a coffee. She orders a drink with tons of high fructose corn syrup and other atrocious things in it.
And milk cream.
And the desserts on top of it, and a lot of
Donuts.
bread. I saw her last month.
Not just bread, but sugar-rich, fatty
Yeah,
donuts.
You know, I saw her eat lunch, and it was not a rushed time when you were forced to eat a terrible meal because there was not, you know, you just have no time. It was a sandwich with pepperoni on it because she can't eat any protein that isn't highly processed, and potato chips. And then, you know, reach for the cookies after that. So this is high carb. I mean, everything she eats is a Snickers bar. You
But
know?
high
Does
carb
she
and high
really
fat
change?
both.
Does she want to change?
She says she does, but as you and I know, it doesn't matter what people
Well,
say,
introduce
it's
her
what
to
their
me.
subconscious mind wants.
You mean you look at what's the software? There's some software program going on in her subconscious.
Yeah, and I don't know
So-
why. She's got a wonderful fiance that is actually a high functioning person, and he's not morbidly obese. So I don't understand it. I would like to understand it, but whenever I try to understand it, I get shut down.
Well, what I'm saying is, let her come see me for a session of emotional trauma release technique. What is the underlying, because I'll ask her, I'll do muscle testing and ask her about eating a protein or eating a salad, and she'll go a week and we'll try to figure out what it is.
You know,
You
that
have
would
to-
be great.
right.
But like I said, it's that Jesus in your own town thing. You don't get to be Jesus in your own town. Doesn't matter how many books you've written and how many people say things about you, and if you're in the top 100 voices of wellness or any of that. Doesn't matter. If it's your family and if they're close, they might not wanna listen.
But
Amen.
what about the 27% Neanderthal? No.
Okay,
That's-
that sounds a lot to me like Dr. Sears. I went to a vegan yoga retreat with this Santa Monica guru, Brian Kest. And we went to Maui for a week, and I might have eaten the vegan for a week, but there was a guy who is well known in LA who was also on the yoga retreat, and he said, what's your blood type? And I said, oh, that is the oldest blood type. This is where you're going, right? And he pulled out Dr. Sears' book, Dr. Barry Sears, and he says, you are a caveman and you need to eat meat. Let's go bust out of here and get a steak. And I said, oh, God, I haven't eaten like animals in 14 years.
And this is the book you write for your blood type, I assume? Because
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
exactly
yeah.
my response would be.
Yeah.
Our genetic makeup gets
Yeah.
changed. I'm O, and I like eating meat, and she's
Yep.
a blood type
Yep.
O.
Yep.
What's your blood type?
A, B.
I have to look it up,
I bet
actually.
you're an A or an
Because
AB.
that answers that possible genetic
He's an A or an
predisposition.
AB, I'll find out later.
And Dr. Sears, I believe I have his book in my library at the office.
Yeah.
Just everyone's a little different, and that can help explain why some people crave meat and some people don't, and in all vegetarian weightlifter versus others.
Yeah, and to be fair, I was very cold. It was hard for me to put on muscle. I was doing a lot of fitness at the time, and I forced myself to eat a steak with these people. And then we went back and got another steak, the second one I really enjoyed. So I've been eating meat ever since then again, and
You noticed a difference?
and I warmed up. My body was better, less anemic, and frankly, you know, everybody here on this panel is not going to agree on what I'm telling you, but I see that a lot of very famous biohackers really do eat beef, and really the most famous one that doesn't is probably sitting at the end of the table here. So there
He's
you
a
go.
rabbit.
And I'm not going to say it's right or wrong, because I do think that there is something to your genetics. I do.
Well, there was Dr. Neil Basson, who I interviewed on Tuesday of this week. He's licensed in 50 states. I already have that right here. He's licensed in 50 states to practice medicine. I've known him for 20 years. He and I are world-class blood microscopists. He was doing blood microscopy, looking at people's blood. I checked blood types. He agreed that blood type is not what we believe it to be. There are some isolated cases, but keep in mind that when people intermix and there's different bloodlines, it mars the change in situation, and blood type isn't always the answer. He does what's called precision medicine, and so he does a lot of work with this. He says that, and I would agree with him, I started a trend about 40 years ago, and I realized that I was tempted, like all of you, to eat a hamburger, a steak, a big chicken wings and whatever. And those temptations were higher when I went day to day without having food prep. For 46 years, I've done what's called the Delgado Culto. I have a USC box, USC bag that I carry. It's the one that college guys put a bunch of beer cans in. I put a blue ice at the bottom, and I have 3 glass containers filled with fresh food that I cooked in crock pots, double boilers, steamer, and dehydrators. It only takes me an hour to prepare my food for the week. And I prepare that food out of my refrigerator, and I carry it with me every day for 46 years without exception. Although 6 days of my life of that time, I didn't. And on those 6 days, I gotta tell you, I was like thinking I'm hungry. Oh my gosh, I think I might eat that airport food or whatever. So if you go only 6 days out of 46 days and you don't eat what you know to be healthy and good for you, then that's extraordinary. I'm not saying I'm extraordinary. I just use a habit, a system that many bodybuilders do food prep. They do food prep because they don't want to be susceptible to eating a big cake and ice cream, because we all would default to it. Why? Because you have sugar receptors and you have fat receptors, and your body will seek that, and it will seek that over eating a sugar cane or beets. It will like the extracted sugar. If it can get the extracted oil from olives, which are good for you, but olive oil's not. Sorry, Brian Johnson, you're wrong. Olive oil is 10 times more, or just to be accurate, there's 9 calories per gram in every gram of fat of oil. There's 4 calories in every gram of sugar. So fat is 2.5 times more fattening than sugar. Everyone who complains it's sugar, they're wrong. No one ever eats just sugar by itself. They eat a chocolate Hershey bar which has fat and sugar. And that fat desensitizes the insulin. The insulin can't push sugar in the cells and you get diabetes, not from the sugar by itself. That was proven when people are given glucose IVs, they never develop diabetes from glucose IVs. They develop diabetes from fat IVs. You can give in 2 hours induce fat diabetes in 2 hours in anybody. And I've seen it under the microscope. If people, I did a video, how to become diabetic in 6 hours. And every day I eat rice, fruits, vegetables, beans, peas, soups, and salads up to the point where I'm satisfied. And anyone who's been around me, I eat fairly large meals, not small. Right?
True.
So I'm always getting at least 100 grams of fiber like our primitive relatives. I'm always getting the nutrients and the enough calories to get through something like we just did.
But you're eating fiber-rich carbohydrates.
100%, never simple
Very
carbohydrates.
fiber-rich.
If I do, it's a rarity. I might eat at a buffet table that Dave prepared, and David did a great job because he had some vegetable kebabs on there and rice. And I ate the vegetable kebabs and rice and hummus.
That's good.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And there was the beef kebabs and there was
You
chicken
invited
kebabs.
tonight. You invited tonight too for dinner.
Yeah, and there was beef and chicken kebabs, and I won't kid you, if I took a few bites of that, it would be no big deal. But I feel it first, I fill up my stomach
You
so
don't
much.
eat fish either? You don't eat fish?
No.
I'll eat fish once in a couple months because my son is a pescatarian. So I might taste it to make sure it's right, but I don't eat it because I know there's a book called Proteinaholics. I know I don't need animal to be healthy.
Oh,
But I do need the caloric density to not lose weight, to be skinny. I don't like the look of a marathon runner that's so skinny and emaciated, it just doesn't look good.
yeah.
You go with me in the gym, I do not look emaciated. I weigh 160 pounds at 5'8", and on peptides and bioidentical hormones, I can get up to about 175 to 180, and I look fairly muscular. I use a very intense workout, and I challenge anyone to go to the gym with me. This man is one of the few brave people that does it with me, and it is intense. And when you go through it, I've had world-class athletes, the level of the longevity coach to Jake Paul, who is the highest paid athlete in the world. He gets in the ring and fights Mike Tyson and people like that. His longevity coach, I'm the mentor to him. I beat him in weightlifting. He did follow for a year, because I want to bet, a plant-based whole food diet for a whole year. He now goes back to eating some meat, but he knows he doesn't need it. He just eats it because it's practical and easy. It's practical to get a lot of calories if you're going to be on an airplane for 8 hours. You need to have enough calories and fruits and vegetables are going to get you through a whole airplane flight for 8 hours, 10 hours to Europe.
I just want to give you a compliment, even though we don't eat the same way. I'm a carnivore. This man really has no time to do mess hall cooking. That's what my husband and I call it, because my husband eats like there's no tomorrow too, and he's, very lean. This man brings his food, just like he says, and one day he says to me, and this, he says, I don't need a woman to cook food. I need a woman to make love. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
It's very true. I didn't
Yeah.
want her to say it, but it's true.
And I
I don't want her to be my cook. I
Yeah.
want her to be my lover.
Yeah, use the energy for what it's meant for, but one thing that somebody said about 10 minutes ago, keep coming back to these different events, because there's always new knowledge. What you learn today may be the latest thing, it may be the latest information, but more will be discovered. And I think somebody touched upon that about 10, 15 minutes ago. So always keep coming back, because you never know what's next. And there are more things all the time, more to learn all the time.
Well, let's
Never.
give David a big hand for Biomed Expo.
Let's.
Go, David!
Any other questions?
Dr. Grossman, you staying for dinner? You gotta go?
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the panel. We're all available. We're going to have a few more minutes at the booth before we head off to dinner and take off. And those of you who haven't been to my booth, I'm doing blood morphology, something I've done for 47 years for Tony Robbins. These doctors here, I've tested almost everyone that was interested in their health, and you might find that an interesting experience. And I also do a microbiome to look at what's going on, the microbes in your body, because your gut health does matter. And we can check your testosterone level in 15 minutes at my booth. Or we can send off a lab kit and get a full comprehensive lab work from some saliva and some blood spots. We encourage you to come to an event I do, foreveryoungevent.com, coming up June 19th in Costa Mesa, California. I love to come to events like this because I get to meet people like yourself. Some of you do sabbaticals and come once a year to an event because you know we're going to be here. And I get to make a lot of friends and check you once a year. And then I'll see if you've been adhering to these individuals' great books, their education, their training, because maybe it won't get through to you after a year or 2 or 3, but then keep doing what you've always been doing. If it's not getting you anywhere, then you might consider making a change and being open to emotional trauma release. Be open to meditation with Dr. Michael Grossman, who I believe you do it. Is it on Thursday night? When do you do it?
Thursday night, 7:30, Sunday afternoon, 12:30. It's drmichaelmeditation.com. You register, no charge.
Okay, is it broadcasted on YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or
It's
Zoom?
on Zoom, live on Zoom.
Nice. Okay, repeat it one more time, the Zoom.
drmichaelmeditation.com. 7:30 Thursday, 12:30 Sundays.
Do we find Dr. Barbara Grossman the same way, or how do we find Dr. Barbara? The office number?
OCWellness.com is our website. That would be how you would find us. And I'm going to offer to everybody who's here in the meeting a free copy of our Ageless Love book.
Ooh,
And
yay!
you can pick them up here at the front, and it'll be a pleasure. We also do our classes on marriage, my wife and I. And if you're interested, we have some little brochures, and you could register for that too.
Dr. C, how do we find you? Where on social media? How do we get your books? How do we get your training?
Books are on Amazon. Absolutely go to Amazon. Just look up my name, and there are a lot of them. There is one on community. You can choose your family, because I really do believe in that. The easiest way to find me, and you'll get lots of short reels and things like that, is probably on Instagram, and it's Dr. C, DoctorCie. And the last thing I just posted was to remind everybody to get their butts down here tomorrow to the Biomed Expo. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed all of this. Thank you, Dr. Nick, too.
Dr. Jerry Ben, how do we find you on social media? How do we find you? You have a booth right outside here, and what else can we do to find you at your office in Los Angeles?
So here at the Life Touch Healing Center, that's my main clinic in Los Angeles. Find me at houdiniofhealing.com. So I help people magically find the answers that they've been looking for. houdiniofhealing.com. I'm all over Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can go to drjeff360.com. So drjeff360.com, but DR, don't spell it all out. And what was that?
TikTok.
I'm on TikTok as well. That's right. So check out some good stuff. And with my social collaborator Zeus, houdiniofhealing.com and drjeff360.com.
To find me, all of my websites are connected to delgadoprotocol.com/hub, HUB. And on social media, I'm on all social media, dr.nickdelgado. If you want to find me on Instagram, we're very active on Instagram. We're doing quite a bit on Facebook. I was all proud of myself for 3.5 years. I gave up my freedom to do every Wednesday night a program on YouTube. And then I saw my peers who I chose to this year to get into the top 1,000, then the top 100, then the top 20 of podcasters. So you can find me on Spotify, and that's a show called Beyond Human. And I do Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays
And also we release shows on the skin, the quality of skin, because I discovered a solution to hormonal acne, and that's on Tuesdays. And so we're spinning off a number of clips of these great individuals who've been into my studio, and I'm always looking for great guests because that's how you get into the top 20 of podcasts around the world. Joe Rogan, move over. You've got a guy that's not a carnivore. I'm going to kick your ass.
I know
In
that's
12
right.
minutes, you won't be able to keep up with me. Good luck. Love you all. Be well, be strong.
One more.